Namaskar. Welcome to Vision of Asia, Voice of Community. This Sunday, as we meet and greet you, we have had the opportunity of celebrating important Uttarayan, Makar Sankranti, Pongal, Lohidi, many festivals with different names. The same day, significance of the transition of Lord Sun to Makar Rashi. Wishing a lot of positive developments to unfold for each and every one of you. With that, let us take a look at the important stories of today's Vision of Asia. We will begin with the celebration of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas at the Indian Consulate. Special segment of this week with Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh about the potential impact of second impeachment for President Trump. We'll also have response to what happened on 6th January at Capitol Hall, that riot, and impressions, reactions. We'll take you to glimpses of a special event organized to promote tourism in Gujarat by FIA online. And we will conclude with memory and tributes to immigration attorney Michael Fulwani. So all this coming up right after these short messages. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are watching Vision of Asia, Voice of Community. Today is a very special day as we meet. We are just few days away from inauguration of the new President-elect Biden is ready to lead this great nation. And the greatness has reached India with Mahatma Gandhi. That day of 9th January is observed as Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Now we have Pravasi Bharatiya Divas as is celebrated in New York at the Indian Consulate, and some members of our community were also recognized for their contribution. Here is a special ITV Gold report on Pravasi Bharatiya Divas celebration at the Indian Consulate.
Very good afternoon to the viewers of ITV Gold. We are here at the Consulate General of India in New York to celebrate the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, a celebration to recognize the contributions of the Indian diaspora, a celebration to celebrate the deep roots which the Indian diaspora has with the mother country India. We appreciate the efforts which the Indian American community has made in supporting India, in supporting India's development efforts.
My name is Yoshita Singh and I'm a journalist here in New York, and it is indeed a great moment of pride for me to be recognized with this honor and this recognition of Pravasi Bharatiya Award by the Indian Consulate General here in New York. It's a momentous occasion for all of us, for all the awardees, and it just encourages all of us to continue working together for the community, with the community, and to take the voice of the community and the diaspora here back to India, back to their homeland. Thank you very much.
Namaste. We are very honored to receive this recognition from our Consulate General New York and CG and DCG sir. We are very honored to receive this, and we are privileged and we feel very humbled because you selected us and because you thought that we have done anything for our community. So, and as our Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi ji has said, we have to make our India Atmanirbhar India, and hopefully we would work hard to make that happen. And I would now request Abhishek Singh to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Consulate General of India, Government of India, to recognize us, and it goes to our organizations. We belong to various organizations who is really working on the ground, and it's this award dedicated to all the volunteers, friends, who they all are watching through your media channel. So thank you very much.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, ITV के सभी व्यूवर्स हैं। मैं आपको भारतीय कम्युनिटी की तरफ से धन्यवाद करना चाहता हूं कि ITV हमेशा ही उस जगह पहुंचा है जहां पे भारतीय कम्युनिटी इकट्ठी हुई है, और अब हमेशा ही भारतीयों का मैसेज जो है हर एक जगह इन्होंने डिलीवर किया है। आज मैं बहुत खुश हूं कि यहां पे सारी भारत कम्युनिटी के जो विदेशों में रह रहे हैं, विदेशों में रहते हुए भी भारत के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं। ये एक आप कह सकते हैं कि परमात्मा की एक दुआ है कि जो विदेशों में भी आके अपने देश के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं। लेकिन इस बार जो भारतवर्ष का ये अप्रवासी भारतीयों का प्रोग्राम जो न्यूयॉर्क सिटी में कॉन्सुलेट जनरल में हर एक जो कम्युनिटी लीडर है उनको रिकॉग्नाइज़ करने के लिए उन्होंने अप्रवासी भारतीयों के साथ जो ये किया है, और हिंदुस्तान का शुरू से ही रहा है कि एक दूसरे के साथ जुड़ के रहें, और जुड़ के भारत का जो मैसेज है, हम सब एक तरह भारत के एम्बेसडर ही हैं जो कि भारतीय कम्युनिटी का, अपने कल्चर का, अपने देश का जो अपना मैसेज सारी कम्युनिटी में पहुंचाते हैं। और मैं इनका बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूं कि इन्होंने सारी कम्युनिटी के जो लीडर्स हैं जो भारत के साथ हमेशा जुड़े रहते हैं, कुछ लोगों को इस बार दिया जाएगा, कुछ लोगों को अगली बार बुलाया जाएगा। मैं सारी भारतीय कम्युनिटी का जो मेरे साथ मिल के काम करते रहे, मैं जिनके साथ मिल के काम करता रहा, क्योंकि अकेला मनुष्य कुछ नहीं होता। जब हम एक दूसरे के साथ जुड़े होते हैं, मीडिया हो या फिर हमारे दोस्त हो, कम्युनिटी लीडर्स हों, जब हम एक दूसरे के साथ मिल के चलेंगे तो भारतवर्ष का नाम बहुत ऊपर जाएगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच ITV, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर कवरिंग।
On behalf of Federation of Indian Association, I really thank you, Consul General of India, for giving such honor to me. My family is so supportive for this great cause in community service. This is a great honor to receive Pravasi Bharatiya Divas Award from Consul General of India, New York, Randhir Jaiswal ji, DCG Satruna ji, the entire staff of Consul General, and my team of FI Executive Committee, the chairman and the committee members for their support, and amazing feeling to receive this award with Federation of Indian Association receiving Pravasi Bharatiya Divas for Government in India on 16th PBD. Jai Hind.
It's a pleasure and a privilege to be part of the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas being celebrated by Government of India every year on January 9th. We are thankful to the Consulate General of the New York City for arranging this wonderful event. It gives like-minded leaders to exchange ideas also at this platform as to how we can strengthen the community, and also how we can, it could be an exchange of ideas as to how we can serve the community better. So we are again thankful to the Indian Consulate for arranging this, thankful to the Government of India for remembering the diaspora on January 9th every year.
Good afternoon, namaste. This has been a great day for Seva International to receive Pravasi Bharatiya Divas Award today. We are receiving this award on behalf of 5,000 of our volunteers who worked tirelessly during this pandemic. We worked very closely with the consulate this year, providing various stranded students their accommodation, food, groceries. Other than that, we had run about 10 non-medical helpline, which we are providing support for various other accommodation, travel, visa, in collaboration with the Consulate General. We are here received this award, and I want to thank Consulate for the effort that they have put in along with us tirelessly to support the Indian diaspora in United States. Thank you very much for having us here.
And now time for our special weekly segment, This Week with Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parekh. The day this was recorded, reference about impeaching president was in air, but it was still not finally decided. But as we share this video today, you will see how analytically Dr. Parikh has talked about the potential impact of second impeachment for President Trump. Take a look.
Namaskar. Welcome to This Week with Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh. Dr. Sir, welcome. Namaste.
Namaskar, namaskar.
And so much has happened in the last week in the aftermath of what happened at the Capitol Hill. So let us recap from the impressions that you made on that day and the way Democrats have reacted. We are almost on the threshold of another impeachment for President Trump. How do you look and assess this reaction?
Well, what happened last Wednesday is really very sad news or sad event for democracy. It should not happen. This kind of violation cannot happen or cannot be tolerated. The assault on the temple of democracy is not acceptable, and it should be condemned strongly. After saying that, now I can see that the whole Democratic Party and some Republican, even congressmen, they all are kind of try to pass the one issue impeachment, second impeachment for President Trump. But I think if you look at, on one hand, President-elect Biden wants to unite everyone, and if you want to unite country, and here the divide is almost like a 50-50. So in order to unite the country and for sake of the country, I think second impeachment will kind of ignite the more division, more animosity, and more hatred to each other. I think they should find some way, like censuring president or something like that, which make him look bad. But again, the unity remains intact. Otherwise, both the party will go their extreme, and then makes the whole life of President Biden difficult in the future.
Absolutely. So looking at the kind of priority which President Biden should demonstrate at the beginning of his tenure, already the focus is shifted to something which is not exactly positive. And we still have the challenge of pandemic at hand. So let me switch gears and come to pandemic in terms of the distribution of the vaccine and people willingly going in for it. How do you see that situation, especially in New York, New Jersey?
Well, I think vaccine is rolling out, slowly but surely. And it differs from state by state. Florida, a lot of people got the vaccination first dose. In New Jersey, quite a number of individuals got the first injection. As compared to New York, seems to be very slow. And I'm sure the governor and mayor will figure it out how to expedite or ramp up the whole vaccination process.
So with this vaccine and the unfolding of America's democratic image are also going hand in hand. So President-elect Biden said in the first 100 years of his being in the office, he will have 100 million people vaccinated, which is not likely to happen based on the number of vaccines available and the way it is being rolled out. Do you have any idea in terms of the number of vaccines available?
Well, I think a number of vaccine will be available in next 3 months, 100 million dosage. But the problem is still different state is doing different way. So I think federal government should kind of finalize the plan, and all the states should follow that plan accordingly. Then I think a number 100 million in 3 months can be achieved. Otherwise, it's impossible to achieve, and then that is not good for pandemic.
And now let me go back to Democrats and President Trump. And President Trump's speech in the rally, the most quoted expression that we will fight like hell. Now that he said earlier also. So do you think that is effective way to correlate this expression with what happened at the Capitol? And in terms of timeline, some people say that while he was making speech, this thing had already started. So to connect the two may be logical, may not be logical. Your take on this?
I think I heard different reports about the whole event, when it happened, when President spoke, what he spoke, whether there's a cause relation between these two events. Speaking of president inciting and riot happening, and as you say that riot started before even the president's speech, so we don't know, and only thorough investigation will find out what happened exactly. But whatever happened, it happened. It's unfortunate thing happened, and I think president should be sanctioned probably just to show world that we mean the business. But I think impeachment and removing the president for 3-4 days before ending of the term, I think that will create more problem than less problem.
And talking about problems, there are reports that people are preparing to have a kind of aggressive demonstration or protest at 50 places, and accordingly FBI is preparing itself in the day of inauguration, as well as Washington DC is pretty much like under curfew. You cannot have any protests, and you cannot gather in the parks and all that. So that doesn't leave a very good image of American democracy on the global level.
Well, I mean, as long as all the protests are peaceful, and if there is no violence, then protests in democracy, protests are always welcome. So because there is a protest, the peaceful protest does not give a bad image of the democracy in the world. But if this protest becomes kind of violent, then I think it's no. It should not happen, and cannot let it happen. And the law and order should be maintained to keep the protest peaceful, if at all there is a protest. But we can't, in democracy, is a fundamental right of the people to protest, and the First Amendment right to protest. So I think we cannot stop the protesting people, but we make sure that they protest and then do not kind of become a violent and unruly.
The way things are, looks like they won't allow protests to happen in parks. But moving forward towards the other side regarding the role of media, indeed, one narrative is more prominently heard in the mainstream media. But now the social media, as we talked earlier, Twitter pushed President Trump away, and there was another platform, Parler, where right-wing leaning people were interacting with each other. That has also been pushed away by Google and other platforms. So how do you see the role of big tech companies in twisting the narrative in favor of one or the other party?
I think it's not, in long run, it's not good for democracy. And also, these are the private businesses, privately owned businesses, but it's monopolized businesses. So by doing that, you are kind of creating another government who is regulating the everybody's speech, and that is, I think that is a kind of not good for democracy. Should not happen, and Biden government should take some action. So this kind of monopoly by private businesses cannot they cannot kind of force or enforce or implement their wishes on the people of the country. So I think it's not good idea in long run. It will backfire eventually, you know.
Absolutely. So now switching gears, going towards India, touching two important days. One, 9th January, when Mahatma Gandhi returned from South Africa, and the day is observed as NRI Day. And at Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, you were also recognized by Government of India. In terms of theme for this year is Atma Nirbhar Bharat and contribution of NRIs. Talk to me about this year's specialty in your view, including reference of FIA.
Well, I mean, as you know that this Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, Government of India celebrates every 2 years, and they recognize 30 different individuals or organizations throughout the world, those who are outside India, who is working for India, and who is working for Indian people. And this year, we are very fortunate that my organization, FIA, Federation of Indian Association of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, been recognized as with the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman, and this is a largest or biggest NRI award from the Government of India, and we are really very proud of our activities of Federation of Indian FIA and its team. And FIA, as you know, has been in action since last 50 years, and they started the India Day Parade, and now they made India Day Parade as a big institute now, and not only that, but they're also doing so many community outreach throughout the year. So I would like to congratulate as a senior advisor to FIA team, its chairman, president, executive committee, and my colleague board of trustees for a great work of last 50 years.
Wonderful. So congratulations to you too, being a part of FIA family also. And another important day is 12th January, which is observed as National Youth Day in India, and that is birthday of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda has also inspired Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and you have also followed the inspiration of Swami Vivekananda, who came to America way back, and he's also a kind of NRI, having lived here for such a long time. So talk to me about the significance of observing National Youth Day on his birthday.
Well, I mean, Swami Vivekananda was a saint. He was really very saint, educated, and spiritual person. And he came to this country 140 years ago. And he, at the age of 30 or 32, and he made Hindu religion a kind of a significant religion in front of the world audience, and taught the people what Hinduism is. It's a kind of philosophy which one should follow. And I think we are very proud of him, and he taught us a lot, and all Indian should follow his teaching and continue to remember his teaching and convey this teaching to our second or third generation of generation children and Indian American, those who are in India and outside India.
Absolutely, very well said, Dr. Saab. When I recollect the quotation, or rather words by Kavi Guru Rabindranath Tagore for Swami Vivekananda, he said, if you want to know India, read Vivekananda. Everything there is positive. There is nothing negative about him. And as we conclude today's conversation, your parting words for our viewers.
Dear friends, lot of things are happening politically and otherwise in India. So I would urge each and everyone to be very calm, very defend the democracy, defend our First Amendment, freedom of the speech, and in back home, we should make sure that our farmers and government comes to some kind of conclusion, a positive conclusion to end farmers' agitation. And we should also remember, still we are in the pandemic, we are at the height of the pandemic. We must, whenever we get a chance, get vaccinated, stay home, don't keep your personal hygiene, keep the mask, cover a face cover, and that way you can minimize number of infection. And be careful. Still, the pandemic is raging, and do not forget that, and be alert, be safe. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. God bless America. God bless India, and goodbye. Thank you.
What we saw on 6 January was not just the rally, which was addressed by none other than President Donald J. Trump. Thousands of people walked towards DC, but parallel to the address of President, what happened at Capitol riot is unacceptable in any democracy, and it is being condemned by one and all, including President, who is blamed to be the one who incited violence and made people act aggressively against this very foundation of democracy. He has been impeached, though there are people who feel very closely and strongly that he should be blamed, and there are proceedings against him. But leaving that part aside, the kind of scenes which we saw on Capitol that day, FBI is following up, tracing each and every individual through their social media accounts, because the pictures were there, some people were streaming it live, and some people feel, what if the color of skin of people who attacked Capitol was dark? And with that apprehension, we have some members talking to Aditi Lamba about their take and their sense of anger as well as frustration on the system that we have come to live in. Take a look.
Above all things, I am an American. My ancestors have been here for hundreds of years, although they were brought by force. It was an act of domestic terrorism. It was actually really frightening from anyone, no matter race, creed, or religion, to see people so easily trample over the American infrastructure. Imagine that they were foreign terrorists. The people who violated and invaded the United States Capitol, they need to be held accountable.
Yes, for sure. You know, let's go into the stark differences we have seen on the treatment that was done to protesters last year as compared to what happened last week. My first question to you has to be, do you look at what happened last week as a protest at all?
Absolutely not. As soon as I saw it, it was absolute domestic terrorists. As you can see of the reports that have come out of our law enforcement agencies on a federal level, white supremacists are the biggest threat to our American society. We don't bring weapons to protest. We don't bring Molotov cocktails. And honestly, with the police presence that we have surrounding any of our demonstrations, we wouldn't even be capable of breaching the barricades. And a report that came out today by the FBI states that they knew violence would occur the next day. So the system failed on so many levels, from the executive level of Donald Trump to down to law enforcement, to Capitol Police, who opened up barricades and allowed terrorists to walk right in and put lawmakers' lives in jeopardy. But not only that, it was the significance of the day that was chosen. It was the certification of the Electoral College to officially make Joe Biden our president-elect. These people tried to stop democracy. It was an absolute coup, and they need to be charged with those big words coming out of the Constitution: treason, sedition, and insurrection. They're enemies of the state.
Shavonna, you were in Minneapolis after the death of George Floyd. You saw from your own eyes what the reaction was of everyone. I want you to discuss with me how the police at that time treated all of you demonstrators that were asking for an end to racism.
We were treated as enemy combatants. If you look at photos from any of the marches from Minneapolis to New York to Georgia to the places where we have rallied in protest, officers are militarized. At some point, federal agents were on the ground. We were treated as if it was a war being fought here in America. I've been tear gassed, hit with pepper balls, arrested, slammed to the ground. I've been beaten with batons. So for no one to stop these domestic terrorists, it just reinforces everything that we believe in, that America is filled with white supremacy and law enforcement are enforcers of white supremacy. As we see with even firemen are being investigated on what happened. So the people who were out there, they're people you encounter in your everyday life. We had lawmakers. This is very scary. What we're seeing is the unstabilizing of the American government. This is how a coup begins. And this is why Donald Trump needs to be removed immediately, because he poses an imminent threat to American society. And as you can see by the terrorists that he leads, the white supremacists, something needs to be done, and something swift.
Shavonna, Black Lives Matter Greater New York has been continuously protesting even past the summer. I'd like to know what these police officers and other law enforcement say to you guys when you are protesting. I know in New York you have done a lot of protests. What is the reaction to you guys particularly, and what is the conversation like?
We're met with anger and hostility. We've been invited to fight at any opportunity. They don't even give us due process. Say there's a system in place when people are supposed to get arrested at a rally, allow recording plays. It tells people to clear the streets or the police will move in. Most of the time, the police do not even play that sound. If they do, they are attacking you in military formation. My back still isn't good when we shut down the George Washington Bridge. They don't care if you're a woman or a child. If you're doing anything regarding Black lives, you are in harm's way when you are out there with nothing more than a bullhorn and a piece of paper saying, "We're here, we're fighting, all power to the people." Now, to see that violent men carrying bombs and guns, and we've seen this repeatedly. When we first seen the shutdown happen, white armed men went to state capitals, made threats against lawmakers, and they protested there. These are not protests. And I find it highly offensive if anyone would compare that to domestic terrorism to what we do, actively fighting for racial equity.
Yes, for sure. You know, President Trump last year, when looking at the BLM protesters, called them thugs, agitators, and looters. But he called these attackers, the mob, via his Twitter. He said that he loves them, he understands their pain, and he's with them, and just told them to go home. How do you react to that, Shavonna?
He stood in the White House lawn. I actually watched his briefing on that day. He refused to send out the National Guard, even though DC Mayor Muriel was calling for it. it reinforces who Donald Trump is. As many New Yorkers would remember, as the Netflix movie documentary came out with the Central Park Five, Donald Trump has always been a starch racist. He's always had horrible, heinous things to say about people who look like me, about Black people. When in Charlottesville, when Heather Heyer lost her life, when we were going in hand-to-hand combat with white supremacists, he called these people very fine people. So anyone who stands against Black people or any actions taken by Black people, you'll be hearing his racist, evil words. He called these people special. He told them we love you after 2 officers were murdered, after deaths happened, after weapons were recovered. He's unfit to be president. He needs to be removed at once. But nothing that came of Wednesday's events, nothing that's been said by Donald Trump is a shocker. This was 4 years in the making. Most presidents try to unite a country once they're elected. Donald Trump kept the divide growing, and now we have a huge racial divide in America, and everyone's sitting on pins and needles. How is it going to play out? Well, how long will it be before white supremacists are taking to the streets and cities and attacking people who are non-white, who are gay and lesbian? We don't know what's to come out of his base because it's built on nothing but hatred.
Yes. You know, President Trump also said last year that when the looting starts, the shooting starts. We saw looting at the Capitol. How do you react to those kind of statements that came from the president and the lack of law enforcement that was used at the Capitol?
And it's so simple, what I'm going to say. It's a aha, I told you so. Black people before me, since Malcolm X and all the other rights leaders, civil rights leaders to come, have been saying Black people are disproportionately affected by police presence. We call for the abolishment of police in our community because we know that we are killed and arrested at a higher rate. You see how I've seen it throughout my time in activism. Police sometimes don't even want to arrest white women. So let alone this country was designed and built for white men. This is how America gained its rights and freedoms away from Great Britain. And this is how they continue to take things by violence. They suppressed many people, held people in slavery through violence. So with Donald Trump being their loudest speaking piece, who seems to represent them at this point, nothing he says shocks me. He saw the images coming out. He saw people putting feces on walls and sitting in Speaker Pelosi's desk and people smoking weed and vandalism and looting. But he would never condemn his own kind because it's who he is. He is a white supremacist.
Federation of Indian Association organized Gujarat Conclave to promote tourism and investment in Gujarat. Chief Minister of Gujarat, Vijay Rupani ji, addressed it, and Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh also addressed it, as well as Consul General of India in New York, Randir Jaiswal ji, also addressed this. Here are some highlights from this event organized to promote tourism and investment in Gujarat.
આજે ગુજરાત દેશનું ગ્રોથ એન્જિન બન્યું છે. છેલ્લા 10 વર્ષમાં ગુજરાત 10% દરે વૃદ્ધિ કરી રહી છે. જ્યારે નાણાકીય વર્ષ 2019-20માં જીએસડીપી નો વૃદ્ધિ દરનો આંક 13% નોંધાયો હતો. નજીકના ભવિષ્યમાં આ વૃદ્ધિ દરમાં પણ હજુ વધારો થશે તેવી મારી અપેક્ષા છે. ભારતની કુલ વસ્તીના ફક્ત 5% વસ્તી ધરાવતું ગુજરાત ભારતના જીડીપીમાં 8% હિસ્સો ધરાવે છે. સમગ્ર દેશમાં ગુજરાતમાં બેરોજગારીનો દર સૌથી નીચો એટલે કે 3.4% છે. આ પ્લેટફોર્મ પર આ વાત શેર કરતા મને ખૂબ આનંદ થાય છે કે સમગ્ર દેશમાં સૌથી વધુ એફડીઆઈ મેળવવામાં ગુજરાત નંબર 1 છે. તે પણ ફક્ત પાછલા વર્ષ નહીં, પરંતુ છેલ્લા 2 ક્વાર્ટરમાં પણ ગુજરાતે સૌથી વધુ 1,19,000 કરોડ FDI views.
It is a diverse state that consists of not only Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Parsis, Jewish, all claiming to be Gujaratis and hailing from that state. Once again, thank you very much, and I look forward to learning from all the distinguished leaders on what is it that Gujarat has to offer to the world. Jai Hind, God bless America.
We are shaping New India with the futuristic infrastructure. So I would like to highlight that the DFCs 36% passes through Gujarat. That Gujarat has invested in developing special investment region and special investment clusters alongside these DFCs. And we, to provide the last mile connectivity, we have decided to connect all the existing port to the DFCs. We have the IFSC, first of ever kind of financial services center city in Gujarat. That is India's only hub with world-class infrastructure for international and offshore transaction. So basically our focus is to house the industries relating to financial services and IT industries.
Today, India is exporting soya, rice, wheat, pulses, and various peanuts. All kind of agriculture outputs are much high. Similar way, horticulture also, India is taking place. In a word, we were importing a big quantity of various kind of horticulture, and today India is exporting. So India is a consuming economy as well as provide the export platform, and Gujarat is well placed because we have 8 active ports and new 6 ports are coming. And due to the new labor policy, which is very friendly, and you can, I think, hire a people at very competitive cost. That is the main thing to reduce your cost.
I must recall the visit of Governor of New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy, to Gujarat in 2019, September 2019, which we facilitated. Consulate General of India worked with the Governor's office in organizing that visit. We can organize many more of such interactions, but of course we will need your support. I'm sure you are there, and we need to work together in promoting Gujarat-US relationship as well.
For those of us who are elected, and those of us who are younger and elected, we can only do so because of the immigrant generation that came before us, because of you, because of my parents' generation who came to the U.S. And survived and now are thriving. And that is very important. And now, our community is overall doing well. Obviously, we're, in the midst of a global, economic and health crisis, but, our community is doing well. And one of the things that, when a community prospers, we as the diaspora, must also look to, our native land, India.
Honorable Chief Minister Rupani ji, Deputy Chief Minister, Honorable Deputy CG Shatrugna Sinha ji, and distinguished guests and dear friends. As a founding member of Gujarati Association of North America, it's my privilege and honor to host this webinar in conjunction with the FIA. Today, we are going to discuss the artificial intelligence and its role in the healthcare industry in India. Artificial intelligence involves the use of the computer software that can assess, critically analyze, and interpret data similar to the human being. We currently see artificial intelligence in many industries to optimize efficiency and reduces the cost. Healthcare is an area that affects all of us personally and is an industry which in the US is the size of the entire French economy. Healthcare also has unique challenges of access with the many physicians and health centers in the large cities, increasing cost, and need to address a growing and aging population.
How artificial intelligence can help us is that right now, one issue is improving access. So both in the US and India, many patients from rural areas or due to crowding and now with many COVID restrictions are unable to come in and be identified to seek care when they need it. What artificial intelligence can do is bring care outside of a traditional clinic and maybe from smartphones or certain centers, patients can be identified easier without the need for an in-person physician or nurse. And this can help identify at-risk patients and bring them into care, both reducing costs and hopefully also improving care.
I know that when I go in to film a travel TV show, because our shows are all about putting locals on camera, they guide us through the area and share the history and the culture. And Gujarat has so much of that to express and share, everything from the culture and cuisine and festivals to the Buddhist circuit and UNESCO World Heritage sites. And those are the types of things that it's amazing to understand when you share that content and information with the world. They want to go and travel to India. They want to travel to Gujarat. They want to experience those places. They get to experience them through the power of television and through sharing of that information and content. But then so many people will go and do those things because they feel like they've learned about the place and they've experienced it through the people.
The Statue of Unity in Kewadia of Sardar Patel is attracting tourism and tourists, not just from India, but across the world. And I encourage you to visit Kewadia. It is a project born out of visionary leadership of Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi. I also would encourage you, given my own experience, to visit Ran of Kutch. I've been there in Ran Festival, and I can tell you it is a unique experience which is not to be missed by anyone. So welcome to Gujarat, and welcome to Ran of Kutch Festival, and welcome to Kewadia. Please enjoy this conclave, and I'm sure it will give a major boost to the connect that the diaspora, Gujarati, people of Gujarati origin, here in the United States have in the state of Gujarat. Thank you very much.
Attorney Michael Fulwani has served Indian American community for over 4 decades. At one time, he was synonymous with the field of immigration, with his TV show as well as his frequent columns written to share updates from the field of immigration with his readers, with his viewers. He passed away on 25th December. Here are some more tributes for Mr. Fulwani with grateful remembrance to his contribution for the community.
My brother was born to help others and give. That was his dream and purpose of his life. He came to USA with only $8 in his pocket, maximum foreign currency allowed by India at that time. With no family, no friends, and no place to live, he landed in New York. Taxi wanted $26 for just a ride to downtown. He didn't have $26, so he just sat at the airport and waited. An Indian stranger gave him a ride and dropped him in Queens by the YMCA. He started looking for a job next day. He paid $2 a day at the YMCA to stay and ate popcorn for supper every day. He started working selling luggage at JCPenney and had to ask his boss for advance pay after 3 days because he had no money left. He was a lawyer in India, but they would not let him practice law in USA. So he sued the New York Bar Association and the American Bar Association. He argued in the New York Supreme Court and won. His argument was that if foreign medical graduates can pass ECFMG exam and show they are equal in knowledge to American doctors and practice medicine in this country, why not the US? Why not the attorneys? He won and was the first Indian lawyer to pass the bar exam and was admitted to the New York Bar in 1974. I was with him that day. I came in May of that year. He started his immigration practice. He bought his family, all of us, my brothers, my sister, and my mother. He then bought some relatives and friends, and afterwards he even bought our neighbors to US. He helped everyone, and as a result, thousands of Indian subcontinent and Asia came here to achieve their dream of working hard and making it here.
I know Michael Pilwani from a long time ago. In fact, he was very instrumental in getting me married to my husband. He was a very dear person and a very special person for me in my life. Michael Pilwani and my father, Justice Israni, shared a very special bond. They were friends from high school and college. They knew each other from the time before when my mom and dad were married. So they shared a very, very special relationship. And I grew up seeing Michael Pilwani every year in my life when I was growing up in India. To me, he was always Michael Uncle. And even when I was getting married to my husband, I asked him, is he going to be the right guy for me? And it's only when Michael Uncle said, yes, he's going to be the right guy, I decided to say yes to my husband. So for me, Michael Pilwani has a very...
was a great friend, very close friend of mine. Me and Michael, we worked together since 1984. He was very active with us in the FIA. That time we fought about immigration and family immigration and all those issues. And we took the buses to the Washington, D.C. and under leadership of Michael Pilwani. And he was the attorney for immigration in our community. And he has a very long-lasting relationship with our newspaper and TV. He wrote a column on the immigration and educated a whole community and about immigration and about visas and about passport and so forth for last almost 35 years. Every week he used to write a column advising our community about different subject of the immigration. And he was really a great attorney. He helped thousands of our community members to get the visa, to how to appeal for a visa and so forth.
Michael Pilwani was one of the pioneers with us in 1977 when we incorporated FIA, the Federation of Indian Association. Michael Pilwani was the practicing attorney in USA and in India. He was known for his complete knowledge on USA Immigration and Nationality Act. And he really helped people in immigration matters with complete passion and integrity.
He helped a lot. He also helped other communities, and he helped many of the national promoters to bring the Bollywood over here by his prolific experience and expertise in the immigration matters. We are going to miss him because I don't know who else can replace him, but he has so much love for us.
And now time to say goodbye from today's Vision of Asia Voice of Community. But important point is stay with us on our Facebook page and subscribe to ITV Gold's YouTube channel. Keep writing to us, events@itvgold.com. The threat of COVID-19 has not gone away, though vaccine has started reaching, and one day you should also get yourself vaccinated as and when the opportunity arrives. But till then, and even after that, for now, mask is a necessity, maintaining social distance as well as washing hands again and again. is the need of the hour to stay safe. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you very much for being a part of this week's Vision of Asia. This is Ashok Vyas. Namaste.